I'm gonna show you and teach you a little bit about the herb yarrow, one of my favorite herbs to use, especially in any sort of bleeding condition. It's a really cool herb, grows plentiful around here in Tennessee. So let's jump in my Jeep real quick and I'll take you out to the field. We'll find some yarrow and I'll tell you a little bit more about it, all right? Okay. Sorry, my other Jeep's not running, so I had to borrow my daughter's. Oh, got it reversed. There we go. There it is, we're good. So I'm actually in my front yard this is my wife's flower garden. She was so kind and generous to allow me to actually plant a little bit of yarrow. And actually this is yarrow, all of this white flowering plant is yarrow. So there's actually it's a red bud tree here. There's some passion flower growing back here, a little wild. There's echinacea over there, not yet flowering. So it's a little bit of a herb, and there's actually mullein in the background. So if you all watch my mullein video, you can check out and learn a little bit about that. So, all right, so yarrow is a really cool medicinal herb. The reason it's called, its scientific term is Achillea Millefolium. The reason it's called that, millefolium, foliage. So if you look at the leaves, it's as if it's like millions and millions of little feather-like leaves to it. So it's a millefolium, millions of leaves, but actually each one of these things is a leaf with many, many parts to it. Why is this such a cool herb for bleeding disorders? And one of the things that I would say is the reason I planted it so close to the house, we just basically out there in the field, I found it growing wild, transplanted it here. The reason I wanted it close to the house is because it's one of the best herbs to have in your emergency herbal medicine cabinet. Because the leaves can be plucked off very quickly, chewed up, can be used as a digestive bitter. Already the bitterness of this herb is causing me to salivate more. I can ingest it. It is an edible plant. It's not something you would want to feed your entire family and fill your belly completely with, but it can be used as like a single leaf, a little bit, chewed up as a digestive bitter. Digestive bitters are really beneficial for digestive conditions. They're going to increase salivation, increase pancreatic, and work as a liver stimulant, allowing for increased bile flow and increased pancreatic excretion of enzymes necessary to break down your food. So it helps with digestion. But now back to, again, as you can see, y'all, I'm a little ADD. But for bleeding, it is actually an herb that is considered an alternative and almost like like ashwagandha would be. It's a adaptogen in terms of blood conditions. So if somebody has like too thin of blood, too thick of blood, they have a clotting disorder, they have lack of clotting, they can bleed and won't clot. This can be placed directly on a wound. The reason it's in your emergency herbal medicine cabinet, you can, again, chew on it just a little bit, crush it up. It's almost a quick poultice. Let's say that I accidentally cut myself somehow, cut my hand, and I wanted that bleeding to stop very, very quickly. And obviously, if it's a bad enough wound, you need to call, if you need transportation, call 911 and get to the hospital as quick as possible if it's that bad. But what I would do if something like that were to occur, I absolutely would grab a handful of this, get whoever it was into a vehicle, and on our way. Obviously do some of the best things like a tourniquet and things, but man, if you could get a hold of this and apply it to the wound, if you had no other ways to stop the bleeding, that applying a poultice of this to that wound can actually improve the clotting at the wound site. So it can actually stop the bleeding or improve the body's ability to stop that bleeding very, very quickly. Herbalists over the years, I've heard stories of herbalists using it when they're out on walks and somebody was out on the farm and grazed their head against a tree that had a thorn tree and cut their head open, and the wound would not stop bleeding. They found yarrow in the field, made a poultice, applied it to the wound immediately stopped bleeding. It's also antiseptic, so it's really good that it's antiseptic and something that can be used on a wound for the purpose of allowing your body to clot quicker and stop the bleeding. in that it's going to be antimicrobial. It's like an antibiotic to that wound. So it's going to be able to be used as a cleaning agent for that wound. You can make teas out of it if you have it dried in your home. That's one of the best ways to do a tea, is out of the dried herb, because then you're going to be extracting from that easier than if you have a fresh herb. So like the fresh herb, because it's not dried, the cell membrane of the plant, those cells are not going to be able to release their medicinal constituents as efficiently in water. You're not going to see the water turn green or anything like that very quickly if it's a fresh herb. So dried would be much better, but you can crush it, grind it, chew it, and simmer it and boil it very, very quickly, make a wash, and then you can basically flush out the wound with that, and it's an antiseptic. Again, for your medicinal herbal emergency medicine kit. So I'm gonna go through this stuff, and just kind of read off from this peer-reviewed, research article or peer-reviewed, I like to call them like a synopsis. They take all the available literature out there that's there at the moment in time, and they review what has been scientifically proven. They go through some history of the herb. They go through the information on its historical uses. I think, and I don't even know, I talked to you about like the millefolium, the last part, the second part of the scientific name, millefolium, but Achilles, that Greek mythical, warrior, so Achilles was said to use this herb on his soldiers, his warriors' wounds. So if his team if they had wounds from battle, sword, everything that could go on in a battle like that, God forbid. But I mean, severed limbs, everything. They would put poultices right on the area where they were cut or injured, and they would be able to stop the bleeding and save the lives of those soldiers. So, I mean, it's used historically, and it's got records of like 50,000 years ago. I forget, it was actually Neanderthal. They found a Neanderthal, and they said it was actually stuck in his teeth. That would be kind of funny to be the person who's like, look, a frozen man, and it's a Neanderthal, and look at his teeth. He's got something in his teeth. Let's figure out what that is. And it ended up being Yarrow, stuck in a Neanderthal's teeth. And of course, they're like, we can't really speculate what the Neanderthal was doing with it while chewing on it. But anyways, back to the topic. Let's read you some of the scientific evidence or the benefits of it that are scientifically validated to some degree or another. Some of these are going to be validated like in petri dish studies and cellular studies, not in actually human type studies, but they're looking at what it was used for historically, and then how can we validate it with current modern day science. So here are some of the benefits of it. The aerial parts, so that'd be like the flowers, leaves, things like that, as a tonic for blood to stimulate the circulation. So it actually can stimulate circulation, improve blood flow, but it can actually stop blood flow where it shouldn't be occurring at that moment in time. So it can help you coagulate to be able to stop bleeding from a wound, or even in female excessive hemorrhaging during their menstrual cycles. It's been used to help with stopping bleeding then. It's actually an antispasmodic as well. This is just some things off of my memory that I'm telling you, and reasons that I pointed women in the direction of this herb, because it can help with excessive bleeding. In fact, I had one individual, this woman was having horrific menstrual cycles. She would bleed for 20 some days out of the month. She had a clotting disorder, and so her body just wouldn't clot. And so she started using this herb, and she saw her menstrual cycles, the length of time. I mean, this would be so bad. She would wear, a tampon, a pad, and a diaper to be able to keep from bleeding through her clothing. So I know that's kind of graphic, but the reality is women who deal with that, it's an embarrassing to them many times, and it's can be very debilitating. Think about losing all of that blood in a relatively short amount of time and consistently over many, many days. She would pass out from lack of blood. She would literally be always iron deficient and anemic. So, something had to have been done. so I pointed in the direction of this herb, and she started using it, ingesting an internal tincture. And again, I gotta say that this is not medical advice. This is just me sharing what I've witnessed, how this herb has helped somebody in their time of need. And that's really what I like to do, is point people in the direction of the herbs God has created, point them in the direction of scientific evidence and information that they can read for themselves. Again, you get these links if you go to thewilddoc.com, you subscribe there, and then when I do these videos, you get links to this stuff. So she used that, and she went down to under a week with that menstrual cycle, where before she just couldn't stop bleeding every time she started her menstrual cycle. So, which can eventually, and did eventually lead to her no longer being severely anemic, passing out, having severe debilitating issues because of her severe menstrual cycle. So going on here. So again, it can help you stop bleeding, and it can help you circulate your blood flow better. And in fact, it's been shown as a anticoagulant for internal thrombosis, thrombotic events, things like that. So it's anti-thrombotic, anticoagulant to the bloodstream if they had too thick of blood, in essence, too quote unquote thick of blood. There's a condition that would cause that, conditions that would cause that, inflammatory immune responses that could cause that, things that are going on in the world right now that are being pushed on people. I'm not going to say exactly what it is, but that has been shown to cause strokes and thrombosis in very, very young people. So guess what? If somebody I know, love, and care about had no way to get away from the forced medical procedure that seems to be being pushed on the community today, in the world today, guess what? And you probably know what it is right now. We're just into 2021, at the end of the I don't know what else to say without them probably screening me or censoring me. So the CV, the jab, whatever, okay, I said too much. Hush, hush. All right, so if somebody was in that situation, guess what I would probably do? Again, if it has the ability to help us in different directions that we may need help, our bodies, our physiology, it's an anti-inflammatory. It's been shown to help with colds and flus, with fever conditions, menstrual disorders, for coagulation problems, for thrombosis, for stroke type situations, and for excessive bleeding. So guess what? You know what? I would say that if the science says this herb helps for that type of situation as an anti-thrombotic, and thrombosis is a side effect of that medical procedure, guess what I would say is, if I was forced to undergo that medical procedure, I would take the liberty and freedom upon myself to say, well, if you're going to force me to do that, I'm at least going to do something that I believe would have a protective nature of it to help me hopefully not die from a stroke. And again, this is not medical advice. This is just sharing my personal thought process behind how herbs are made by God. And for that girl I just talked about with the severe menstrual bleeding condition, guess what? The reality is God made this herb, and we can glorify Him through the use of the creations He gave us. These plants were here for a reason, more than just smell pretty good. They're nice and frilly. They work as nice pillows, That's more than that, It's not just pretty to look at. There's actually application, and science has shown that the beneficial application this herb could have would be, they even talk about it, extremely economical, being very inexpensive, not costing tens of thousands of dollars every year for some people to be able to afford their medications for their health conditions. But I do want to say this, that there are underlying health conditions that could lead to hormonal imbalances, spinal and pelvic and inflammatory conditions, again, blood disorders, infections, fibroids, different things like that could lead to the excessive bleeding in, again, such as a situation of a female with excessive menstrual bleeding. But this herb may help them in that time period, but I would hope and pray that they would seek out every means they could have to truly heal from that condition, or support their body in the way in which would be needed to allow their body to function at their, what I would consider, with the use of things that God's created, the ability for the body to function at its God-given health potential, possibly with the support of herbs, or through a process, getting things working correctly and balanced out in their system and correcting the underlying factors that are leading to the condition, so that once they're healed, they don't need to rely on this herb for the rest of their life. Like, I want true healing, not just, hey, take this herb if you have this symptom. That's not the way I work and function. But it's just really cool what it can do. So here we go. High blood pressure. It's been actually shown to be an ACE inhibitor, have ACE inhibition type effects. And again, for that, circulating little porcupine looking ball that, everybody's supposed to be running scared from right now in the world. What did they say? And what is multiple medical journals now showing is that ACE inhibitors, ACE2 inhibitors, of course, they say in the medications could possibly lower the risk of that quote unquote, porcupine ball infection. But, why not use an herb? That's just kind of me. That's kind of me. Now, I'm not telling you get off your medications. Again, all the clauses you can read at the bottom of this in the description on YouTube or on my website. This is for informational purposes only, and I do kind of throw in my own little quirks and quirks and twerks. That's probably not the right thing to say, is it? Yeah, should not have said that. Edit that out. No, maybe not. Hopefully somebody laughs. Laughter is the best medicine. Okay, we need a little bit more of that in our life these days. So here we go. High blood pressure, menstrual disorders, effective for a sweating remedy to bring down fevers. Now here's the reality. Don't work to bring down the fever. If it supports your body, then your body may not have to put out as much energy towards an elevated temperature, which again, fevers help your body fight off an infection. And if herb helps to improve your body's responses to an infection, then guess what? You don't need as high of a fever to be efficiently fighting off that potential pathogen. So again, I don't even like it when it's used traditionally and then they refer to it as a fever-reducing herb. That's not the way herbs really work. They support the body, they don't suppress the body. So, and if you want more information on fever, please do check the website and just type in the search bar on thewilddoc.com if you have any, hesitation in allowing a fever to run its course, or you want more understanding and you want to go through the scientific literature on a fever. I just got to add that side note because there is a false fear of fever. We should not. Don't fear the fever. You know what I mean? Kind of like that song, don't fear the, anyways. Yarrow intensifies the medicinal action of other herbs, so you can blend it with other herbs to allow them to work more efficiently. It helps to eliminate toxins from the body. It's analgesic, amenorrhea, phlogistic, anti-inflammatory. It will help to control bleeding, improve situations of blood clots. It lowers your blood pressure. It's a blood purifier. It improves blood vessel tone, so it's used as a poultice. You can actually make tinctures, or you can use teas of this, or even the poultice, and you could actually apply that to things like varicose veins, and it can help tonify the blood vessels. Colds, chicken pox, circulation issues, cystitis, diabetes, digestion. Again, I'm reading this from a peer-reviewed medical article, all right, looking at the available scientific evidence on this. So not my opinion, not my recommendation, just information. All right, gastrointestinal disorders, choleritic, dyspepsia, eczema, fevers, flus, gastritis, glandular system problems, gum ailments, again, bacterial, oral bacterial overgrowth, things like that, yeast infections. Grab some of that, chew on it, just make sure it doesn't get stuck in your teeth like the Neanderthal. That was so embarrassing, I'm sure. It's like, oh, dude, they found my body. I had Yarrow stuck in my teeth. Gosh, if I was going to be discovered, why didn't I brush my teeth first? It actually can be used. If you forgot to brush your teeth, grab some Yarrow, just scrub away. That's another way to do it. So, y'all, there's some people probably sitting there saying, all right, dude, stop joking around. I like to joke around. It's fun for me, hopefully fun for you. But yeah, I know. Let's get back to the information. Slow heartbeat, influenza, insect repellent. See, I have not been bit by a single bug as I'm sitting by here. Not a single. Get away from me. All right, so internal bleeding, liver conditions. It helps to stimulate and regulate the liver function. Lungs, with hemorrhaging of the lungs, has been used traditionally to treat measles. Menses, suppressed menses, or it can actually improve or suppress the duration of menses if it's too long. Menorrhagia, menstruation, regulates and relieves the pain during menstruation. Women, guess what? You'll love this one if you're nursing right now. Nipple soreness, all right? Man, think about all the women that would be like, thank you, Jesus, I need that right now. You know, my wife's been pregnant for quite a few years here now. We're on our 4th child going on. So yeah, nipple soreness, pick a little bit of that, make a little wash, make a poultice, whatever you need to. All right, nosebleeds. So again, nosebleeds, you could crush it up. You could, you know, if it's your kid or if you want them to chew on it, they could do that. You could chew on it if you're the parent, you know, squish it up, stuff it up their nose. Just inhaling the aromatics of these leaves to help with nosebleeds. Again, nosebleeds could be an underlying condition that needs to be evaluated and figured out. Sometimes it's just abnormal. It can be like caused from misalignments in the cervical spine. That I'm not treating nosebleeds as a chiropractor, though I am a chiropractor, and I've helped many children with chronic reoccurring nosebleeds that was unexplained medically through medical tests. See, nosebleeds can occur in migraine headaches and things like that because it's inflammation and improper vascular control in that region. So realigning the cervical spine can oftentimes correcting the underlying cause to them by correcting subluxations of the cervical spine. So side note there, but yes, if your child is having a nosebleed that won't stop, guess what? You could do that and help them. All right. Piles or bleeding piles, smallpox. Woo! Golly, this stuff goes way back. Stomach sickness, toothaches, thrombosis, ulcers, urinary, antiseptic. As a urinary antiseptic, what's that mean? Bacterial infections of the urinary tract, tightening of the uterus and help it contract. So it would not be one you would want to use at any time during the pregnancy that you would not want to increase uterine tone. So that's why it's somewhat contraindicated for women to be internally ingesting it while pregnant. But I will share another study. I'll link it in this video, actually, even though I don't have it on hand right now. We're not going to grab the computer or anything like that. But one of the ways the medical community figured out that this herb was supposed to be potentially problematic for pregnant women to ingest was that they took rats and they fed them, while pregnant, they fed them 56 times the human normal dosage of recommended dosage of ingesting Yarrow tincture or tea. So 56 times. And they said, you shouldn't take it. I'm like, wow, that's such an impressive research study. It's as if they they wanted to point the finger at Yarrow being harmful. Well, would anybody be like, you know what? Wow, somebody used, this is the medical community. They wouldn't be like, well, somebody used 56 times the recommended blood pressure medication in one sitting and they died. Therefore, no one should ever ingest a blood pressure medication. It's a double standard. You see what I mean? But I am not recommending because it can tonify and increase contraction of the uterus, but it might be beneficial towards the end. That's what these types of herbs could be potentially beneficial for. All right. Tightening, gastroprotective, varicose veins, vision, may reduce autoimmune responses. I actually came upon a study today that I had not yet read about Yarrow, that a year of taking Yarrow in MS patients actually had some benefits, reducing the number of flare-ups in those receiving the Yarrow treatment. So maybe I'll talk about that in more detail later on. And again, this is not like a cure for an autoimmune condition, but the science does point towards benefits for somebody with that condition. So I think I've kind of gone through the most of it. Again, you get this link in from the website. All my references will be there. I talk about in this video. So real quickly, because we're in my front yard, why don't we run out to the field real quick and I'll kind of show you the natural environment where you could potentially find, especially if you live here in Tennessee or local area in this region of the United States, where you could potentially find this. And it grows all over the world, but where you could find it in its natural habitat. Come with me. Let's jump in the Jeep. Out to the woods we go. All right, we're gonna walk. This is gonna take forever. So we're out in the field right now, just down from the house into our lower field here at the house. Right here it is. So this is yarrow growing right here. And I am going to take you and show you another poisonous plant that you would not want to confuse with yarrow. So we're going to show you that in a minute. But as you can see, tall grass growing, clover growing out in more of a grassy field. It likes full sun, so you're going to find it out in the fields. I've got it all over my back field and our front field here. And so you're going to look for these white clusters of small flowers, okay? And if you find that, you take the stem down the ground, guess what? It's extremely easy as long as it's not too dry and the roots don't dry out. You could practically pull this right now. And again, we're in late May right now here in Tennessee. And so you can see that's in full bloom right now. It's great for pollinators. So you can pull that up, dig it down, keep that root ball intact in the dirt, and then you could transplant it in your front flower garden, have right there available to you some medicine, one of the medicines God's given us to be able to help us in times of need. So really cool stuff. So let's go find the poisonous plant that I want you to be able to know that it's not this. And I'll show you the differences real quick, just kind of as a safety precaution. All right, let's go. So actually, as we're walking to go find the poisonous plant that I wanted to show you to be able to, help you lightly identify it. But again, don't just take this video as all that there is to need to know on how to identify. This is not an identification video on how to identify yarrow or the poison hemlock that I'm going to show you. This is not poison hemlock. This is Queen Anne's lace. So, which is actually technically edible. I've never ate it, eaten it, whatever it may be. But yeah, so they both have umbrella-like flowering parts. Obviously, you can tell the difference when they're side by side. So, and because yarrow is, again, Achillea Millefolium, not multi. Some are multi, which means a few. This would be like a multi-foliage plant. This is millefolium, millions of folium. All right, foliage. So the leaves are like millions of little parts to the leaves. These are like a bunch, not millions. Millions here, millefolia. So that's why it's millefolia. So let's go find a little bit of poison hemlock, and then show you a little bit of the difference. But again, make sure that you study them both so you can properly identify poison hemlock and properly identify yarrow, especially if you consider ingesting or utilizing yarrow as a medicinal herb in your herbal medicine cabinet. Come on. All right, so here's poison hemlock. Step into the taller grass. And you can see big old cluster. I mean, it's very, very invasive. It kind of shields out, reaches for the sky, goes for that sunlight. The way you're going to know it is not necessarily by the leaves. Again, they have the umbrella-like clusters of flowers here. They're a lot more thinned out though, for one, but really the way you can tell the difference is in that stem. Very hard to even pull, but see that difference? And if I wipe the stem, I wipe a white, almost like a dewy, it gives a little wetness to your fingers, but you wipe that off and it's red tinged. So like blood tinged. So poison hemlock, do not consume, know the difference of it. That in between yarrow, so that you do not mistake in those. And once you see them, especially side by side like I got them now, they're impossible to me, I mean, they're pretty much impossible. Not impossible, not in absolutes, but I mean, obviously they're extremely difficult when you see the difference and you know the difference. You don't want to just go, oh, white clustered flowers, yay, that's yarrow. No, don't do that. Bad idea. So, all right, y'all, my kids just got home, so I'm gonna spend some time with them. Family, wife here too. So, but yeah, so I just gave you a lot of information on yarrow. It's probably, hopefully, a very timely, beneficial video in some regards to what's going on in the world right now, in case somebody is going to be forced to take the you-know-what. None of my kids will, though. None of my family, no way. But, you know, hopefully it's timely to help those that may be in that situation or having conditions of excessive bleeding or cardiovascular, and you know, just go back through all the benefits. Are really, really cool. It's an herb that God created for us to use in a time of need so we can rely on Him. Just remember that. That's kind of what I want to talk from in future videos about herbs, is that, you know, this is an herb God created for all of us to be able to be utilized in times of need, and therefore we can glorify Him through our healing, through our improvements in our health, and we can protect our little ones. God forbid she scrapes her knee or, you know, cuts herself out here on the farm. You know, we can flush it out, we can clean it out, we can help her body stop bleeding and help her heal up even faster. You know, and we can thank God in the meantime, right?
Daddy, look.
What?
I did that.
Oh, you scraped. See? See, she scraped. Let's wash it out. Is it all better now? All right, y'all. Please do share it, because again, it is a timely video that may very well potentially lead people in the direction of things, an herb, a medicine, a plant-based medicine that God created that they need right now. So I do pray that you will share this information with others. Love y'all. What do you want to say to them? Anything? No, you're just gonna smile, look pretty. Okay. One more thing. I love giving out this information. I hope you are blessed by it. I hope you gain more knowledge of the things that, you know, truly God has created for our good, and we can glorify Him in the process. But if you are going to be seeking this herb online, looking to purchase it, looking to keep it in your medicinal herbal cabinet, you know what? We would greatly appreciate the support financially. We do carry this on thewilddoc.com in our store. We also have it in our office in Clarksville, Tennessee. So if you want to pick it up from us, grab it from us, we do appreciate that support. Thank you all.